Lily's Blue Haven. Lily inhaled the scent of old paper and sunshine, the familiar perfume of her window seat. Tucked between the wall and her overflowing bookcase, it was her sanctuary, a world away from the beige tyranny of the rest of the house. The cushion, patterned with faded constellations, molded perfectly to her shape. Today's book, a hefty tome about nebulae, lay open in her lap, but her gaze was fixed on the fluffy clouds drifting past her window. "Imagine," she murmured, tracing a finger along a particularly vibrant image of the Orion Nebula. "Imagine being there, Maya, soaring through clouds of stardust." Maya, perched precariously on the edge of Lily's beanbag chair, popped a bubble of gum. "Sounds messy and probably hot." Lily sighed, the sound a gentle rustle in the quiet room. Maya, bless her heart, appreciated the practicalities of life far more than the poetry of space. "It would be magnificent," she insisted, turning back to the window. "Imagine the colors." Her bedroom, a riot of blues in every shade imaginable, was her personal attempt to capture a fraction of that magnificence. The walls were a soft, calming cerulean, like the sky just after dawn. Her bedspread was a patchwork of denim blues and indigo, accented with silver thread that shimmered in the afternoon light. A string of fairy lights, shaped like tiny moons and stars, twinkled around the perimeter of the room, casting a soft glow on the shelves overflowing with books, art supplies, and carefully curated collections of rocks and shells. "It's still just blue," Maya said, unimpressed, her gaze sweeping the room. Lily bristled. "It's not just blue, it's azure and sapphire and cerulean and—" She trailed off, knowing she sounded defensive. "It's calming, it's me." She pushed herself up from the window seat, a sudden surge of energy making her restless. "Come on," she said, grabbing Maya's hand. "I want to show you something." She led Maya to her desk, a chaotic expanse of sketchbooks, pencils, and half-finished projects. In the center sat her latest creation, a diorama of a Martian landscape, complete with miniature rovers made from recycled cardboard and carefully painted rocks. "Wow," Maya said, finally showing some genuine interest. "You made all this?" Lily nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "I'm thinking of entering it in the school science fair." "You should! It's way better than my volcano," Maya grimaced. "It keeps erupting baking soda all over my mom's kitchen." Lily laughed, the sound light and airy. "Maybe you need to adjust the vinegar to baking soda ratio." The laughter died down as Lily caught sight of something out of the corner of her eye. A small rectangular object sitting on her desk, partially hidden beneath a pile of papers. Her dad's phone. He never left his phone in her room. A knot of unease tightened in her stomach. She hadn't seen him since breakfast, when he'd rushed out the door, muttering something about an important meeting. Her mom had been even more frantic, juggling phone calls and packing a suitcase. Something was definitely up. "What's that?" Maya asked, pointing at the phone. "My dad's phone," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He never leaves it here." She cautiously reached for the phone, her fingers brushing against the cool metal. The screen was dark, but as she picked it up, a notification popped up, a text message from an unknown number. Curiosity and a growing sense of dread warred within her. She knew she shouldn't look, that it was a violation of privacy. But the unsettling feeling that had been nagging at her all day intensified. "Are you going to look at it?" Maya asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. Lily hesitated, then with a deep breath she swiped to unlock the phone. It wasn't password protected. Her dad, usually so careful about security, had left it wide open. The text message was short and to the point. "Offer accepted. Closing next week." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Offer accepted? Closing? What did it mean? Her eyes scanned the phone for any other clues, landing on the recent call history. There were several calls to a local real estate agent, all made within the past few days. A cold wave of realization washed over her, leaving her trembling. They were selling the house, without telling her. The bright blue walls of her haven seemed to close in on her, the comforting colors now mocking her ignorance. Her window seat, once a refuge, felt like a trap. The stars and moons of her fairy lights flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to whisper accusations. "Lily, what's wrong?" Maya asked, her voice laced with concern. Lily couldn't speak. She felt betrayed, abandoned, invisible. All the things she loved, all the things that made her feel safe, were about to be ripped away from her, and no one had bothered to tell her. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the Martian landscape she had so painstakingly created. The rovers, once symbols of exploration and discovery, now seemed to represent her own impending displacement. She clutched the phone in her hand, her knuckles white. A spark of anger ignited within her, a fierce, burning defiance that threatened to consume her. If they thought they could just sell her house, her room, her life, without consulting her, they had another thing coming. "They're selling the house," she finally managed to choke out, her voice trembling with rage. "While we're at school, while I'm sleeping, they're selling my house." Maya stared at her, her mouth agape. "What are you going to do?" Lily's gaze hardened, her eyes narrowing with determination. "I'm going to sell it first." Coco takes over. The sizzle of bacon dragged Lily back to consciousness. Down the hall, the floorboards groaned a familiar tune beneath her bare feet, a comforting sound at odds with the disquieting revelation from the previous night. Perhaps she jumped to conclusions. A simple misunderstanding? Or maybe, seized by a sudden overwhelming guilt, her parents would confess everything over breakfast. The kitchen blazed with morning light, a picture of perfect domesticity. Robert manned the stove, wielding a spatula like a conductor's baton, while Eleanor orchestrated a fruit platter at the island. Coco, a powder-puff Bichon Frise with perpetually hopeful eyes, sat sentinel at Eleanor's feet, tail-drumming a hopeful tattoo against the cabinetry. "Morning, sleepyhead," Eleanor trilled, her smile a touch too brilliant to be genuine. "Morning," Lily mumbled, dragging out a chair. The scent of bacon had lost its charm. Robert presented her with a plate piled high with crispy rashers and fluffy golden eggs. "Fuel up, big day at the studio, isn't it?" Lily toyed with her breakfast, prodding the eggs listlessly. "Yeah." She scanned her parents' faces, hunting for any trace of culpability, any hint of shame. Nothing. They were acting oblivious, suspiciously so. "So," Eleanor began, her voice a shade too cheerful, "we have a little announcement." Lily's insides tightened. This was it. The truth would emerge, the apology offered. Robert cleared his throat. "Coco's been experiencing some discomfort with her paws lately." Lily blinked, thrown. "Coco? What did paw issues have to do with anything?" Eleanor knelt, fussing over Coco's pristine white feet. "They're just so sensitive, you know. The hardwood really irritates them. She needs something softer." Lily watched, bewildered, as Eleanor massaged the dog's tiny paws. Robert pressed on. "We were thinking Coco could really benefit from your room, Lilybug." The words hung weighty and absurd. Lily stared, her fork now a useless weight in her hand, clattering against the china. "My room?" "Yes, darling." Eleanor chirped, rising and beaming. "It's the largest, with the most wonderful light. Ideal for Coco. We'll get a luxurious rug, maybe even that memory foam stuff. She'll be so much happier." Lily's thoughts spun. They were selling the family home, and now the family pet was to take her bedroom? "But where would I go?" she managed, her voice barely a whisper. Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, we'll sort something. We could convert the den, or even use the spare room. An exciting opportunity awaits." Robert backed her up with a solemn nod. "It'll be fun. Redecorate to your heart's content." Lily looked at them, a hard knot of anger forming in her gut. Fun? Opportunity? They were dismantling her life, piece by piece, and labeling it as enjoyable. She inhaled deeply, fighting to contain her fury. "So, to reiterate, Coco's paws are more important than my living space?" she asked, her tone dangerously even. Eleanor's brow furrowed slightly. "Of course not, dearest. It's just, Coco's well-being is very important to us, and your room presents the best solution." Lily glanced at Coco, now licking Eleanor's hand with an air of undeserved superiority. The dog practically oozed smugness. "I understand," Lily said quietly. She pushed the plate away, her hunger utterly extinguished. "So, when do you envision me vacating my room?" "Oh, no need to rush, sweetheart," Eleanor replied, relieved by Lily's apparent compliance. "We can start moving things later today." Lily pushed back her chair, the scrape against the floor echoing in the suddenly silent kitchen. "Fine." She turned and left the kitchen, leaving her parents and the pampered dog bathed in morning sunlight. As she walked back, thoughts raced in her head. This wasn't merely about square footage anymore. It was a matter of worth, of validation, and if her parents were prepared to prioritize canine comfort over her own feelings, perhaps a drastic solution was required. Maybe it was time to scorch the earth. Metaphorically for now. The dusty attic. The cardboard box seemed to defy physics, its heft far exceeding its dimensions. Lily grunted with each pull, inching it across the cerulean carpet, once a source of solace, now a jeering reminder of what she'd lost. Each object nestled inside: her cherished Matilda, the watercolor set from Aunt Clara, the painstakingly constructed Constellation Mobile, felt like excising a piece of her soul. "Sweetheart, are you certain you wouldn't prefer Coco to have the downstairs guest room?" Her mother's voice dripped with manufactured concern as she hovered in the doorway, Coco, a pampered accessory in her arms, a preposterous pink bow affixed to the dog's head. A tiny yap echoed her words. Without raising her gaze, Lily retorted, "Positive, Mom. The attic has atmosphere." The word tasted like ash. Eleanor Chen offered a practiced sigh, heavy with martyrdom. "Well, if you're sure, but should you reconsider?" Her voice faded as she cooed at Coco. "My precious girl deserves the finest, doesn't she? Such delicate little paws." Lily slammed the box's flaps closed with a resounding thud. Perhaps she shouldn't be using them then. The barb escaped before she could bite it back, and her mother's face instantly crumpled. The unspoken apology remained trapped in Lily's throat. Another sigh, and Eleanor retreated, the click of Coco's nails against the polished floor a diminishing cadence. Lily glared at the container, waves of fatigue washing over her. This was monstrously unfair. The attic hatch emitted a mournful screech as she wrestled it open, a geyser of dust erupting into the dim hallway. Coughing, Lily swatted the air. A dilapidated, retractable ladder swayed with menacing uncertainty. She inhaled deeply and began her ascent, each rung groaning a dirge beneath her weight. Up above lay oblivion. Weak sunlight pierced a begrimed window, illuminating a swirling dance of dust motes. The air hung thick, saturated with the mustiness of aged decay. Cobwebs festooned the rafters like ghostly tapestries, clinging to long-forgotten relics, a cracked porcelain doll, a stack of brittle newspapers, a moth-eaten wall hanging depicting a scene too faded to discern. Shiny, bloated spiders darted across the splintered boards. Lily recoiled. She loathed spiders. Her new sanctuary was a fraction the size of her beloved Blue Haven. The sharply angled ceiling forced her to stoop. No closet, no shelves, no familiar comforts. Just dust, shadows, and the unnerving sensation of being observed. Unpacking seemed a pointless exercise. How could she possibly transform this place into something resembling a home? She arranged her books in a haphazard pile against the clammy wall, a makeshift library. Her watercolor set looked forlorn amidst the grime. The Constellation Mobile, once a source of wonder and tranquility, seemed to mock her with its celestial, unattainable beauty. She wrestled with the window, hoping to banish the stale odor, but it remained stubbornly sealed, the wood swollen with years of neglect. Frustration surged. She kicked a loose plank, sending a plume of dust spiraling. Tears stung her eyes. It was unbearable. She yearned for the soothing azure walls, the sun's caress through her window, the comforting weight of her familiar quilt. She missed feeling cherished, valued. As dusk descended, the attic turned frigid, the shadows elongating and morphing into grotesque caricatures. Lily huddled in a corner, embracing herself for warmth. The wind howled outside, rattling the panes and whistling through the gaps. Utterly alone, she felt banished to this neglected corner of the world. An icy certainty gripped her. She couldn't endure this. She wouldn't. She had to act. But what? A plan began to coalesce, audacious and born of desperation, fueled by righteous anger and a profound sense of betrayal. It was reckless, bordering on madness, yet it was the only course that resonated. A flicker of defiance ignited within her, pushing back the encroaching darkness. She wouldn't concede. She would ensure they regretted this. Forgotten feelings. Lily worried at a snag on the armchair's worn upholstery, the rough weave abrasive against her skin. She had to get through to them. About the icy tendrils that seeped through the roofline, the dust clumps rivaling field mice, the stale mothball aroma that clung to everything like a shroud. She sought out her mother, finding her in the former sanctuary of her bedroom, chirping sweet nothings to Coco. The pampered canine, luxuriating on what had been Lily's cherished rug, was being offered slivers of succulent roast chicken. "Mom?" Lily began, her voice a faint thread against Eleanor's cooing. Unheeding, Eleanor continued her ministrations. "Just a moment, darling. Coco needs her nourishment." She scratched the dog under its chin, rewarded with a wet, enthusiastic lick. "Doesn't she deserve the finest, my little treasure?" Lily's jaw tightened. The finest used to be ballet lessons. The finest, a fresh set of paints. The finest, this room. "Mom, the attic's freezing and filthy. I'm pretty sure we have rodents." Eleanor finally lifted her gaze, a fleeting flicker of irritation creasing her brow. "Honestly, Lily, must you? Coco's still acclimating. You know how delicate she is." Her attention returned to the dog, another savory morsel forthcoming. "Such a good girl." Rebuffed, Lily withdrew. She tracked down her father in the garage, immersed in a labyrinth of wires and motherboards. He was usually more approachable. "Dad?" Robert remained engrossed. "Hang on, Lily Pad. Almost got this gizmo running." He indicated a small drone with a screwdriver. "The attic's uninhabitable." She pressed, the words tumbling out in a rush. "It's freezing, filthy, and probably infested. Can we please get someone to check it out?" Robert grunted, his concentration laser-focused on the drone. Right. I'll have a look when I get a chance. Just need to wrap up this project." Your mother envisions aerial footage of Coco frolicking in the garden. Lily regarded her father, the drone's whine mirroring the rising crescendo in her head. Aerial footage of Coco. A familiar ache bloomed behind her eyes. "But I can barely concentrate up there. The lighting is awful." Robert finally glanced up, a shadow of apology in his expression. "Listen, honey, I'm sure it's not that dire. Try to make the best of it, okay? Your mother's anxieties are soaring, and this is helping her." He returned to his task, the drone's persistent buzz filling the void. Lily spun around, the garage door swallowing her. Dinner proved a charade. Eleanor and Robert danced attendance on Coco, enthroned on a velvet pillow beside Eleanor. Delectable morsels of salmon and delicate asparagus were discreetly passed beneath the table, while Lily's attempts at conversation met with glazed-over nods and murmured acknowledgments. "How was school, dear?" Eleanor inquired, her focus glued to Coco as she lapped daintily at her water. "Fine," Lily mumbled, listlessly prodding a floret of broccoli. "I aced my history test." "That's lovely, sweetie," Eleanor said distractedly, absently stroking Coco. "Such a clever girl." Robert echoed, his voice barely audible above the tinkling of Coco's bowl. "Anything interesting happened today, Lilybug? At the university?" His words faded, his gaze drawn back to Coco, who was now nudging Eleanor's hand with her nose. Oh goodness, she wants more salmon. Lily's hunger evaporated. She felt like a specter at her own table, a forgotten player in a drama where the star was a pampered, four-legged prima donna. The oven's warmth seemed to amplify the bone-deep chill. Her gaze drifted to the family portrait hanging on the wall, captured just a year prior. They were smiling, vibrant together. A wave of something akin to mourning crashed over her. The faces seemed foreign, her parents unrecognizable. She didn't know who she was anymore either. She excused herself early, bearing her untouched plate to the kitchen. The clatter of porcelain resonated in the abrupt stillness, a sharp reminder of her solitude. as she ascended the groaning staircase to the attic. The weight of unacknowledged grievances settled upon her, smothering her. The attic wasn't merely a room. It was a testament to her banishment, a concrete symbol of the gulf that had opened between her and her parents. And tonight, amidst the dust motes and looming shadows, Lily realized something drastic had to shift. A spark of an idea. The attic air, stagnant and thick with the ghosts of yesteryear, scratched at Lily's throat. She waved away the dust motes dancing in the meager sunlight slicing through grime-coated windows. A desperate escape from the saccharine baby talk downstairs had driven her here, anywhere better than coups directed at Coco. She shoved aside a pile of brittle newspapers, their rustling echoing in the stillness. Cobwebs snagged at her jeans, ethereal shackles. In the dim recesses, almost swallowed by a threadbare floral armchair, sat a cardboard box. Curiosity, a constant prod these days, tugged her forward. The box resisted her efforts, heavy with untold stories. Grunting, she hauled it into a sunlit patch. Torn flaps revealed treasures entombed in crumpled tissue, infant clothes impossibly small, a porcelain doll with eyes like frozen sapphires, and a stack of photo albums bound in time-worn leather. She opened one, a tug of something akin to grief pulling at her. Images swam before her, a miniature version of herself, beaming, hoisted by parents radiating unfiltered happiness. Where had that light vanished to? Beneath the albums, a glossy rectangle surfaced, a real estate brochure. The cover displayed their house, bathed in the honeyed glow of twilight. Charming colonial with modern flair, the headline declared in confident strokes. Lily traced the raised print. Years etched into the paper's fragility. The colors muted ghosts of their former selves, but the house remained undeniably theirs. Flipping it over, she devoured the property description: expansive backyard, ideal for gatherings, state-of-the-art kitchen, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Each phrase a pointed barb against her current reality. Her haven of a bedroom, now relegated to a canine kingdom. And then, at the bottom, a call to action in unassuming script. Inquire for a private tour. A sudden shiver traced the back of her neck. An idea, audacious and disobedient, began to bloom. A ridiculous, utterly insane idea, yet the more she nurtured it, the more enticing it became. A spark, kindled by frustration and fanned by a ravenous need for recognition, flickered within her. What if she dialed the number, imposed as her parents, and scheduled an appointment? Adrenaline surged. A terrible notion, no doubt. She'd be banished to a cellular dead zone. Her parents would erupt. But wasn't that the very point? Wouldn't that finally pierce their bubble? She visualized their expressions when potential buyers materialized, ready to inspect the premises. The bewilderment, the disbelief, the sheer, unadulterated shock. And then, perhaps, just perhaps, they'd finally understand the depth of her ache. The hollowness of displacement, the feeling of fading away. The plan was reckless, impulsive, and likely doomed. But as Lily gazed at the number, a small, defiant smile crept across her lips. It was a beginning, a declaration of war, a demand to be seen, and possibly, just possibly, a way to reclaim her life. She carefully tucked the brochure into her pocket. Its weight, surprisingly grounding, felt like a promise of the chaos to come. The attic, once a repository of forgotten relics, now felt like a staging ground. She descended the groaning stairs, the seed of rebellion taking root. The house hummed with silence, Coco's gentle breaths filtering from behind her old bedroom door. Lily paused, hand hovering. Not for long, she vowed silently. Not for long. The pretend phone call. The glossy real estate brochure felt clammy in Lily's grasp. Mrs. Gable's headshot beamed up at her, a calculated warmth Lily intended to replicate. Abandoning her math textbook, she propped the brochure against it and fixed on the phone number. The moment had arrived. First, the voice. Lily lowered her register, chasing the slightly gasping quality her mother used with strangers. "Hello, Mrs. Gable, this is Susan Chen." She cringed, too cartoonish. She recalibrated, aiming for a tone of composed authority. "Hello, Mrs. Gable, this is Susan Chen, calling about the house at... A glance at the brochure. 14 Maplewood Lane. Better, infinitely. She dedicated the next 10 minutes to refining the opening gambit, pacing and envisioning the exchange. She anticipated Gable's likely queries. Reason for selling? Desired time frame? Recent roof inspection? She practiced retorts, piecing together snippets of her parents' conversations and the short, sharp answers her mother delivered during arguments about Coco's mounting vet bills. She overlaid this with an airy insouciance, hoping to divert any suspicion. Finally, a steadying breath, and she punched in the digits, the double ring of the phone hammered against her ribs. "Good afternoon, Gable Realty," Cynthia speaking. Lily's painstakingly assembled facade wobbled. "Cynthia? Not Mrs. Gable? Adapt." "Oh, hello, Cynthia. Susan Chen here. Regarding the listing for my house, perhaps you have it?" "Yes, Mrs. Chen, I do. Just a moment." The tap, tap, tap of keys. Lily clutched the receiver, her fingers bone white. "Okay, found it. 14 Maplewood Lane. Lovely property." Lily swallowed hard. "Yes, well, we're contemplating a change of scenery." "Understood. And what sort of timeline are we considering? Weeks? Months?" "Ideally, sooner rather than later," Lily stated, channeling her mother's practiced impatience. "We're quite keen to move on." She hoped the ambiguity sounded sophisticated, not alarm bell suspicious. "Understood. And have you commissioned any preliminary inspections? Roof, plumbing, that sort of thing?" Lily hesitated. "A blind spot. Think." "We had a general inspection conducted a few years back," she invented, recalling a muttered exchange about a dripping faucet. "Nothing significant. Routine upkeep." "Excellent. And showing availability? Are you flexible?" This was the crux, the pivotal juncture. "Yes, quite. Possibly sometime next week? Afternoon hours?" "Let me consult my schedule." More tapping. The silence ballooned, punctuated only by Lily's shallow breaths. "How does Tuesday at 2:30 look?" Lily's mind flitted. Tuesday. Both parents at their respective offices. Perfect. Tuesday at 2:30 suits perfectly. Wonderful. I'll pencil that in. And just for my notes, Mrs. Chen, is there anything specific potential buyers should be aware of regarding the property before viewing? Lily paused, a mischievous light igniting in her eyes. "Only that it's extremely pet-friendly. She couldn't resist the barb." Cynthia chuckled obligingly. "Duly noted. Well, Mrs. Chen, I look forward to our meeting on Tuesday. I'll forward a confirmation email promptly." "Thank you, Cynthia." Lily disconnected, her hand trembling violently. She gaped at the phone, a bizarre cocktail of dread and exhilaration surging through her system. She had done it, actually done it, a house showing, scheduled, on fabrications. The enormity of it began to dawn. This was no longer simply about grabbing her parents' attention. This was something else entirely, something colossal, something with the potential for utter disaster. Yet, beneath the anxiety, a current of excitement persisted, a stubborn ember refusing to be quenched. She had wrested control, she had taken action, she was no longer fading into the background. Now came the crucial question: what on earth to do next? Showing the house. The doorbell offered a bright, almost celebratory chime, a stark contrast to the anxious ball forming in Lily's gut. Smoothing the floral print of her mother's vintage dress, a garment carrying the faint ghosts of lavender and mothballs, she steeled herself. Showtime. The door swung inward, revealing a practiced, welcoming smile. "Mrs. Gable, it's such a pleasure to finally connect." The woman on the porch towered over her expectations, a cascade of auburn curls framing a face positively alight with warmth. Sapphire eyes danced with genuine affability. "Patricia, please, and you must be Susan. A real pleasure. The online photos simply don't capture the charm of this place." She extended a perfectly manicured hand, her grip firm and assured. "Do come in," Lily responded, gesturing for Patricia to enter. We've cherished this house, raised our family within these walls, but it's become rather cavernous now. Empty nest, you understand? A silent cringe followed. Empty nest syndrome? Really? Patricia gave a light laugh, her gaze sweeping across the living room. I hear that sentiment frequently these days. Downsizing is undeniably a trend. It's a delightful space, though. The natural light is simply superb. She glided towards the expansive bay window, her fingers tracing the sill. Lily trailed behind, relieved by Patricia's apparent enthusiasm. We had it replaced some years back. Energy, efficient, double-paned, the full works. Keeps those winter heating bills manageable. She recited the details, echoing her father's endless pronouncements during the installation. Practical? Patricia approved, her head bobbing slightly. And the hardwood flooring? Original, I presume? Refinished just last year. Lily corrected, pleased she'd remembered. We aim to respect the home's character while giving it a fresh update, finding that perfect equilibrium, if you will. Precisely, Patricia agreed, drifting into the dining area. The layout flows beautifully, ideal for hosting gatherings. Lily guided her through the lower floor, highlighting the modernized kitchen appliances, a source of genuine pride for her mother, and the newly decorated powder room. She strategically avoided mentioning the incessant drip in the laundry room faucet, a repair perpetually on her dad's to-do list. As they ascended the staircase, Patricia remarked, I understand there's a particularly special room you're eager to show me. Lily's pulse quickened. Oh yes, that's Coco's sanctuary. She forced a light tone. She simply adores it. She ushered Patricia to her former bedroom, now awash in pastel pink and overflowing with canine paraphernalia. A luxurious dog bed claimed a corner, and a framed portrait of Coco presided above it all. Patricia's face lit up. How precious! You've truly created a haven for her. It's so vital for pets to have their own personal retreat, don't you agree? She crouched to examine a well-chewed tennis ball on the floor. Lily swallowed, a wave of resentment washing over her. Absolutely, she managed, her voice strained. Coco is undeniably spoiled. She pressed on. She spends almost all her time in here. She has all her cherished possessions, and the light is ideal for her daytime slumber. Patricia rose, her eyes sparkling. I can certainly see that. It's a truly joyful room. A pause, and then she studied Lily with a subtly sharper gaze. You must be deeply devoted to your dog. Lily met her scrutiny, striving to project the image of a doting owner. Of course, she answered, perhaps a hair too quickly. Coco is family. Patricia smiled, yet Lily detected a fleeting undercurrent in her expression, a hint of curiosity, perhaps even suspicion. Indeed, it's quite evident. Shall we continue with the remaining bedrooms then? As they proceeded down the hallway, Lily couldn't quell the nagging feeling that Patricia Gable had seen straight through her carefully constructed charade. The knot in her stomach cinched tighter. This was proving far more challenging than she had anticipated. Sold. So, Mrs. Chen, Patricia Gable chirped, her smile practically incandescent, assuming the inspection goes swimmingly, and frankly this place is pristine, are we ready to finalize things? Lily's breath caught. Her mouth felt like cotton. Finalize? She managed, the word emerging as a near whisper. She cleared her throat, tried for a steadier tone. Yes, finalize. Absolutely. Patricia produced a slender document from her Mary Poppins-esque bag. Excellent! This is a standard agreement. Just initial here, and a signature at the bottom. Voila! She flourished a pen. Lily accepted it. The plastic felt strangely alien against her sweaty palm. This was the Rubicon. Scanning the pages, the dense legalese swam before her eyes. The initials seemed harmless enough, little fleeting marks that felt less committal than a proper signature. But the signature line, that held weight, that felt epochal. With a trembling hand, she mimicked her mother's flowing script, then arrived at the crucial line, Eleanor Chen. She inhaled deeply, willing her hand to obey. She wrote the name, the characters slightly askew, a touch too sharp, but hopefully convincing. Patricia Gable snatched back the document, her gaze darting across it. Splendid! Congratulations, Mrs. Chen. You found the perfect buyer, I dare say. She practically glowed. I'll drop off a copy tomorrow. Lily summoned a feeble smile. That's grand. Simply grand. Ever the professional, Patricia Gable continued her tour, highlighting a few subtle details of the property. Lily did her best to maintain a veneer of agreement, fielding queries about the garden, the nearby shops, and the local atmosphere. Finally, Patricia stood at the threshold. I'll be in touch soon, Mrs. Chen. It's been a genuine pleasure. The pleasure was all mine, Lily replied, an inner sigh of relief escaping her as the door clicked shut. The instant she was alone, Lily sagged against the door, her pulse a frantic drumbeat. She'd pulled it off. She had sold the house. Or, well, pretended to. Now came the real performance. She bolted to the garage, rifling through her father's tools until she uncovered a cache of sturdy cardboard. Gold. She grabbed a handful of thick markers and hurried back inside. Spreading the cardboard on the kitchen table, she began crafting her message in bold, oversized lettering, sold. She punctuated each word with enthusiastic slashes, her earlier dread giving way to a surge of defiance. She created 4 placards, each a little different, some boasting extra exclamation points, others adorned with whimsical stars. The sharp, metallic aroma of the markers filled the air, a strangely invigorating scent. She felt like a subversive artist, a puppet master, a queen of her own domain. Or, at least, of cardboard and felt tips. Signs completed, she seized a roll of duct tape and ventured outside. The waning sun painted the lawn in long shadows as she strategically placed her pronouncements. One by the mailbox, another flanking the front door, a third nestling amongst the roses, and the final one planted squarely in the middle of the lawn, courtesy of a garden trowel. Stepping back, she surveyed her work. The stark white cardboard blazed against the green, the blocky black letters broadcasting their message to the world, or at least to the street. A jolt of nervous exhilaration coursed through her. She pictured her parents' reaction, the initial shock giving way to dawning realization, then to outrage, and ultimately, she prayed, to empathy. Maybe, just maybe, this melodramatic gesture would serve as the needed jolt. Perhaps they'd finally understand the depth of her unhappiness, how much she craved her lost life, her familiar room, her intact family. She fantasized about them dismantling the signs, faces etched with contrition. Then she imagined their embrace, their apologies, their promises of change. Maybe they would even relent and allow Coco to sleep in their room instead of banishing her. The rumble of an engine shattered her reverie. She straightened, smoothing her jeans, her heart hammering against her ribs. This was it. They were home. But it was Mrs. Peterson, the neighbor, pulling into her driveway. Mrs. Peterson offered a wave, her expression a mask of curiosity. Lily forced a smile in return, striving for nonchalance. The fewer explanations she had to offer, the better. Her parents needed to be the first witnesses. As Mrs. Peterson vanished inside, Lily cast one final glance at her handiwork, the sold signs glimmering in the twilight. A shiver of anticipation ran through her. Any second now, her parents would arrive. Any second now, everything might shift. The big reveal. The sinking sun elongated the shadows across the manicured lawn, spotlighting the crimson sold proclamations that seemed to shout their victory. From her perch at the window, Lily saw her parents' familiar sedan glide into the driveway. A pang of guilt, unexpectedly fierce, shot through her, yet beneath it simmered a core of unyielding resolve. Not now. Eleanor's voice, a startled exclamation, sliced through the quiet. "What on earth?" she cried, her tone climbing the scale. Robert, ever the steady influence, narrowed his gaze. "Those look official," he murmured. He exited the vehicle with deliberate slowness, a crease marring his brow, and approached the nearest sign. His fingers traced the smooth surface before his eyes scanned the agent's details near the bottom. Eleanor joined him, her face a study in incredulity. "Robert, did you authorize this?" A headshake, his attention riveted to the stark pronouncement. "We agreed to wait, to consider our options. Just then, Mrs." Gable, with her customary punctuality, arrived in her own car. Professional cheerfulness radiated from her until her smile wavered slightly as she surveyed the scene. Mr. and Mrs. Chen? Fantastic. I'm Patricia Gable, delighted to finalize the agreement. I have the offer here, ready to sign. She presented a slender folder, its contents promising a future Lily vehemently rejected. Eleanor goggled, alternating between Mrs. Gable and the obtrusive sign, her mouth working silently. Robert, regaining composure, managed a bewildered, "Mrs. Gable, there seems to be a misunderstanding." Taking a bolstering breath, Lily descended the stairs. The hallway air felt thick, vibrating with unspoken accusations. As she entered the living room, every gaze swiveled toward her. "Lily!" Eleanor's query sounded brittle, barely audible. The real estate agent's professional smile evaporated. "You're Lily." Lily held her ground. "I contacted you, Mrs. Gable. I signed the documents." The ensuing silence hung heavy and absolute. Robert's typically serene features were now a canvas of bewilderment and something akin to wounded surprise. Eleanor collapsed onto the sofa, her hand fluttering to her chest. "But why, Lily? Why would you do such a thing?" Eleanor finally whispered, her voice shaking like a leaf. Lily's carefully erected barricade of defiance began to crumble. "Because nobody ever listens," she blurted, the words spilling out in a torrent. "You sold the house, you handed over my room to Coco. You didn't even bother asking me how I felt. It's like I simply don't matter." She flung her arm out, indicating the "sold" signs dominating the view from the window. "I thought if I did something drastic, you'd finally take notice. You'd see how utterly miserable I am." Tears welled, blurring her vision. She saw the shock etched on her parents' faces, the spark of understanding flicker in Mrs. Gable's gaze. "Coco didn't request a bedroom," Lily pressed on, her voice cracking. "Coco didn't ask to move. I did, and you disregarded it." Robert moved slowly and reached Lily. No words came, only the gentle pressure of his calloused hand on her shoulder. That minimal gesture breached the levee. Tears cascaded freely now, hot trails on her cheeks. I yearn for our old life," she wept. "I pine for my room. I miss feeling like I had a place." Eleanor rose and moved toward Lily, her expression softening. "Oh, Lilybug," she murmured, reviving the endearment she'd abandoned long ago. "We misread the situation. We were under the impression you were adapting so well." Mrs. Gable cleared her throat, a composed interruption amidst the unfolding family drama. "Perhaps," she ventured delicately, "this isn't the opportune moment to discuss the proposition. I could reschedule." Robert gave Lily's shoulder a squeeze. "Indeed, Mrs. Gable. Thank you for your flexibility. We'll be in contact." He steered Mrs. Gable toward the entryway, his face a study in polite regret. As the portal closed behind her, the enormity of Lily's act weighed down the room. The boastful "sold" signs outside seemed to mock her rebellion, a grim memorial to her desperation and an impending reminder of the repercussions yet to be faced. A new beginning. The silence after Lily's outburst hung heavy, thick enough to choke on. Eleanor was the first to break it, her voice soft, laced with a regret that sliced through Lily sharper than any yelling could have. "Oh, Lilybug," she whispered, reaching for her daughter. "We messed up, didn't we? We were so busy, we didn't see." Robert nodded, his usual quiet demeanor replaced with a visible remorse. He knelt beside Lily, his hand gently covering hers. "We were wrong, Lily, dead wrong. This house, it's not just bricks and mortar, it's your home too, and we didn't treat it that way." Lily, surprised by their genuine contrition, felt the knot in her chest loosen a fraction. "But Coco," she mumbled, her voice thick with unshed tears. You treat him like he's more important." Eleanor squeezed Lily's hand. "That's not true, sweetheart. We love Coco, but you're our daughter. Nothing and no one could ever change that. We were just trying to fill the empty space, I guess, but we did it badly. We hurt you in the process, and we are so, so sorry." Robert added. "We got caught up in the sale, in the logistics. We forgot to think about what this meant for you, how much you loved this place, the memories here. We'll figure something out. We'll talk about it, together." The next morning, a different kind of energy filled the house. There was no realtor buzzing around, no potential buyers poking their noses into every corner. Instead, there was the sound of hammering, of laughter, of a family working together. Eleanor had the brilliant idea of transforming the dusty, forgotten attic into Lily's dream bedroom. "It's big, it's bright, and it's all yours," she declared, brandishing a paint swatch card. "We can make it anything you want." Lily, initially skeptical, found herself drawn into the excitement. Robert, surprisingly adept at DIY projects, took charge of the structural work, reinforcing beams and installing a skylight that promised breathtaking views of the night sky. Eleanor, with her artistic flair, focused on the design, incorporating Lily's love for constellations and her favorite color, a vibrant shade of turquoise. Lily, armed with paint rollers and a newfound sense of purpose, helped transform the drab space into a haven. They spent hours sanding, painting, and decorating. The air buzzed with activity, punctuated by shared jokes and the occasional friendly argument over the placement of a shelf or the shade of a curtain. Coco, sensing the change in atmosphere, trotted around, occasionally bumping into legs, tail wagging furiously. One afternoon, Lily, feeling a surge of rebellious energy, marched outside to the front lawn. With a mischievous grin, she ripped down the "sold" signs that had taunted her for weeks. Robert and Eleanor, watching from the porch, exchanged a look. Instead of reprimanding her, they joined her, tearing down the remaining signs with a shared sense of liberation. That evening, after a dinner of Lily's favorite lasagna, they sat together in the living room. "So," Robert began, a hint of nervousness in his voice, "where do we go from here?" Eleanor put her arm around Lily. "We start listening, really listening. We make decisions together as a family. No more secrets, no more surprises." Lily looked at Coco sprawled luxuriously on the large dog bed that had once been earmarked for her room. "And Coco?" she asked hesitantly. Eleanor smiled. "Coco still gets to be spoiled, but maybe his bed can be a little smaller, and maybe it belongs in the living room so he can be part of everything but not the center of it." Robert nodded in agreement. "And maybe we start having family game nights again. Remember Monopoly marathons?" Lily grinned. "Only if I get to be the banker." Later that night, Lily lay in her new attic bedroom. The skylight framed a breathtaking expanse of stars. The scent of fresh paint mingled with the soft aroma of lavender from the diffuser Eleanor had thoughtfully placed on her bedside table. It wasn't just a room. It was a sanctuary, a testament to her family's love and commitment. She wasn't sure what the future held, but in that moment, surrounded by the constellations and the comforting hum of her house, she felt safe, loved, and finally, truly at home. The old house was still there, but it was a new beginning for all of them.